Hi, my name is Eric Bowie. I am an associate with the Healthcare Practice and Advisory for KPMG. I'm doing a healthcare series to talk about our clients and how well we've traversed through obstacles with them and who internally and externally has some insights that would help us in the market and help our clients understand what's going on. Today, I have Ken Huntley, who's our project manager here, and thanks for coming with us and talking. And we have a lot of different things that we want to talk about today, and we'll go through and first we'll get some background and see. So Ken, if you want to tell us about yourself and
Sure.
kind of your background, what you got?
Yeah, I'm a director in the Workday practice. I focus primarily on managing the implementation, the full implementation, whether that be just for HCM, but I also do what we call full platform implementations involving payroll and finance and supply chain as well.
Really? Yeah, that's really good. I know that we cover a lot of those bases, and I know that you're well versed is really why we're here today, right? And so I wanted to talk to you about how your expertise really align with our healthcare practice and what you do and what you do on a day-to-day basis for us. Like how those different projects have been for you.
Well, each one of them has their own challenges. You have and you really focus on the key challenge of one project, and then you feel a lot of conviction for that one topic or one thing that you sort of managed around on that project. Right. You go to the next project, and that ends up being a non-issue.
Right.
So,
yeah,
and it's something else entirely. And so it's just every project has challenges. We just have to be nimble and really change with the dynamics of the particular project. The staffing of it, the organizational structure of our clients is impactful. Right. In terms of how we have to adjust what our approach is. The timing of certain events that happen at our clients, we have to kind of adjust for that. So each one of our projects has something different that we have to account for and we have to manage around.
And you said something there in terms of being nimble. I mean, all of these projects, there are going to be some obstacles to go through, things that are going to happen. You got to be light on your feet when those things happen. I mean, I'm pretty sure being a project manager, you've seen a lot of that, correct?
Yeah, we have. I mean, there's a lot of situations. Like, take for example, we have projects where there are certain guideposts or certain dates where we have to meet certain things. We have to accomplish certain things. And sometimes we don't do that as much as we try, and that's for any number of reasons. And so the question is, how can we be creative and move different parts and pieces around when we can't do that? And a lot of times we can't. At the beginning of a projects, when we have certain things happen, like let's say our design workshops have to extend a little bit, then we have, because that happens at the beginning of the project, we have a lot more runway to be able to move parts and pieces of the project around in the middle and toward the tail end in order to compensate for that. That said, we are really intentional when we create our project timeline. There's a certain number of weeks that we need to do certain tasks, and it makes it really difficult when we have to lose a week here so we can gain a week there. So we try pretty hard to manage expectations on the front end. We try to work really with our clients to make sure that they have the right time, that they can be involved. If they, we want to make sure that they understand where we need them the most, and when there are other times where we don't need them as much, times where maybe we are often doing certain elements of work. But we try to communicate upfront early and often for when we do need them, so that we make sure that we meet our timeline.
Yeah, and when you say them, you're referring to the leadership at the clients, correct?
That's right.
The decision makers. So what is a perfect world in your mind where leadership involvement, what level of leadership involvement creates that happy medium in customer client world and KPMG world?
That's a good question. So to some extent, it's as simple as at least making sure that they commit to the meeting cadence that we have. We have what I call sort of a meeting engine. Every week there's a number of meetings that we have certain levels of involvement in from our executive leadership. We have meetings where executives from each of the teams are involved, and then meetings where they're involved at their own department or work stream level, and it's really consistent attendance. I know that sounds like a simple idea, but there are many times where sometimes we don't have the consistent attendance and involvement of those leaders and commitment to really help us make decisions in a timely way.
Right.
If they are busy and they have other things going on, they're not able to attend, or they do attend and they don't commit to making decisions in that sort of time frame, that makes it difficult for us to stick to the timeline that they want. And that timeline that they want is all centered around a date where they want to be live and in the system.
Right.
So we're doing that as a way to try to help them be successful. So it's really that perfect amount of commitment and timing is just being able to be a part of the project at those sort of meeting times, particularly for executives. So the reason why I say it in that way and make it more about meetings than every day and sort of full time is because we don't necessarily need them full time. Those are more for our key stakeholders, our project team members. We just need them to come in and certainly make decisions that our stakeholders.
So when doing the deployment and implementation of this, a lot of testing has to go on to make sure that what's going on is what they like and they're satisfied. What does successful testing look like in that? What goes on throughout that process where everyone is like, okay, yes, this works?
That's a great question. So the way to look at successful testing, a lot of people's interpretation of that word is primarily focused on testing of the system in terms of configuration. So we think about, how does recruiting work? How does how do supplier contracts work? How do we configure the system to test? How does the business process work from end to end in terms of what we designed? That's certainly a key focus, arguably, the most important focus, because that's what the end user is going to experience. But it is not the only important thing that needs to happen during testing. So, we do ourselves a disfavor when we think about testing only in terms of the way the system acts from an end-to-end process perspective. We have to hold in the same account data, and the extent to which that data is complete and accurate.
Right.
The integrations that happen between Workday and other systems, reporting, so the way the reports look, the way the reports function, the data that comes out of the reports, all of those things. So it's not just configuration, it's data and integration and reporting. Those four component parts are all things that need to be a part of what happens during successful testing. So we have certain time frames, and we have, in our case, Powered Enterprise is iterative. There's cycles of testing that happen throughout the course of the engagement, and what we have to do is hold in the same regard data, reports, and integrations as we do configuration. So our daily meetings, the same people that are involved in configuration are actually the same people that need to be involved from an integration standpoint.
And so KPMG's involvement in terms of a project manager standpoint, what would be a successful level of involvement for KPMG? What makes us the differentiating healthcare implementing tech? We are. What do we do on that to make us?
We have a lot. By now we've done so many implementations, particularly in the healthcare provider space, that we have a critical mass of knowledge and a critical mass of people who go to each of these healthcare systems. We have a number of the people that work on our healthcare system implementation clients, they've worked for other ones.
Right.
So they carry that knowledge with them. And we have a body of knowledge, not just in terms of best practice, but best practice for healthcare systems. We know certain things that are specific to healthcare providers that are not specific to other industries. We know position control is significant. We know the way time reporting works within a healthcare system environment is really important. We know the typical systems that Workday has to integrate with, and the complexity of that data and how that data impacts payroll, for instance, pretty key with that. It's complex, and so we had to learn early on what that looks like. In other industries, time management's not this difficult. But if we think about the way we do physician scheduling and nurse scheduling, those are complex things. And Workday has to be nimble enough in order to know how to bring in that data and how to let that data interface with our the absence module and payroll. So those are some particular things that we've seen that we know we going into these projects have to keep in mind.
Right.
So having our people be involved really heavily, particularly in global design, is key, so that we make sure that we factor in all these different unique things that we've seen before. We bring that into these design sessions so we know what questions to ask, and we know how to kind of account for that as we design the system.
So the expertise here at KPMG, you know as well as anybody as a project manager, kind of how we've sharpened our swords here in terms of this experience that you've spoken on just previously, of how we all have our different backgrounds of where we came from and what we do and how we bring that to the table to sharpen up not only the team but also the clients themselves. And could you speak on how well that you've seen us bring together those different pieces in an advisory firm to be able to mold the client portfolio that we have today of over 25 plus implementations? Like, what does that look like?
That's a great question. A lot of consulting firms, sometimes there's sort of walls in between different practices and different competencies that these consulting firms bring to the table. We don't have that. Really, all the projects that we work on, we work together on, and there is no boundary really. So if we think about when we talk about a Workday implementation, these are not just Workday configurators.
Right.
There are also people who work on these projects regularly, even though they're working Workday implementations that just deal with the change management side, just deal with training,
Right.
just deal with security, not just in terms of the way Workday is configured, but security generally as it relates to the way Workday interfaces with the company and different considerations there. We also work together hand in hand with our business transformation team. So whereas we might go in to do a Workday HCM implementation, which of course impacts HR, we also have our HR transformation practice. So many times Workday HCM is just a part of an overall HR transformation where we're reorganizing the structure of that organization. We're rethinking the way we do recruiting. We're rethinking the way we do benefits. How do we do that? How is that staffed today? And to what extent do we want to change the way we think about that in the future?
Oh, Ken, is there any other points that you wanted to make today, or?
No, that's it. I just, we really are passionate about the work we do with our healthcare providers. We want to hopefully be a contributor to the way healthcare is done, particularly in the United States. And we know that a lot of these transformations are our healthcare system's way to get us from here to here, get us from where we are today into the future. And we know that they view this as a critical piece to get them there. And so we take that seriously. When we engage in dialogue with prospective clients, when we are working every day with current clients, we think of it in that way. We think of these projects as being our clients' way to bring our healthcare system into the future. So we're thankful that we get to be involved in that way.
Yeah, we love that, man. Thank you so much for coming here, Ken, and thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thank you.